Evening.
Hey, John Shaffer.
Woo! Episode number 28 of the Running Mullet. Hi, hello, good evening. Don't be late.
Don't be late for episode 28, even when you have technical issues.
Correct.
Thank you, John Shaffer, for coming on. You are a guest host of the evening while Eric Kosek is listening to his pre-race instructions for the Divide 200. So welcome onto the Running Mullet. And for our first piece of technical issues, totally forgot to get the file for our intro song. So ready? Episode 28. Episode 28. Don't be late.
Don't be late for episode 28.
This is the Running Mullet. And if you're in the front of the pack or the back of the pack, it's going to be super awesome. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
That was a great intro song. Oh, thanks for coming on the show. I know we got people just streaming in. Again, we are live Monday, every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Whether Eric's here or not, we go live. And here to sub in for Eric Kosek is John D. Shaffer, aka Wildman. We'll see how long that name lasts through the episode. And all right, start us off. Who are you? Why are you here, John Shaffer?
Well, most recently, probably I'm going to say it was 2 months ago, I was at a race and I was mistaken for Eric, idiot Kozak. And I said,
Really?
No, I have more hair up top.
Yeah,
he has more hair down below. And he has
by down below, runner. You mean at the chin line?
Beard, chin level. Yep. Above waist, below chin. Yes. And so I started running 9 years ago, and Craig Fleming kind of adopted me because kind of like that stray dog you kick to the curb and the dog keeps coming back. He couldn't get rid of me, so he finally said, "Come along, let's go." So it's been 9 years since I've been trail running.
How many stray dogs do you think Craig Fleming has?
Ooh, quite a few. As a matter of fact, all of his dogs he's had in his life are shelter. They're rescue dogs.
Yeah.
Yep.
And including you.
Including me. Yep. I'll tell you what, my wife would attest to it that I would probably say, not necessarily running didn't save my life, but it certainly changed my life.
Yeah. So now here's what we're going to do today. I want to dive into that. And here was my idea for the show is I want to know what it's like, because one thing that I have not had the pleasure of doing, I haven't been able to run with you, sir.
We need to make a date. We need to make a date for that.
That's right. We need to have a good fun run together. We haven't been able to do that yet. So I was like, you know what? I want to know what it's like to go out on a run with John Shaffer. What kind of tips or stories or advice would he give along the way? So I think to everybody out there listening, I want to give everybody that experience. What would it be like to go out on a run with John Shaffer? But we're going to start with why do you do this? And what do you mean by running? So running didn't save your life, but what did you say? How did you word it?
It didn't necessarily save my life, but it certainly changed my life.
Changed your life. How so?
And it continues to change it. Just, the more I delve into this whole trail running community. So many of our listeners are going to know this about me, but any new listeners that may not know me. So 2 weeks prior to Call the Wilds, 9 years ago, this will be the 10th running of the Call the Wilds this October. A little shameless plug there.
I've not done it. I've heard really good things. And one of my athletes I convinced to run Call of the Wilds. I'm pretty excited. She's running the 50K.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, this will be my 5th year as the RD for Call of the Wilds, 50K. So Craig, he took me on board when I said I wanted to bring it back after he did it for 3 years, then let it go and did the 25K. And so this will be the 5th year that we've brought it back. So 2 weeks prior to the first running of Eastern States 100 and Call of the Wilds Mountain Marathon, I got a DUI. and I drove home, and like the entire police force of Jersey Shore, 7 cop cars, like we watched them go up and down the driveway a bunch of times, and they finally pulled in, and I thought I did well with the field sobriety test, but no, they cuffed and stuffed me. And as I'm being put into the cop car, I could see the faces of my 3 daughters in the our driveway door, and one unhappy wife behind my 3 daughters' faces. And I thought to myself at that moment, okay, this is not the husband my wife married, and this is certainly not the father that I want my daughters to grow up with. So that night, I made a pledge to quit drinking and change my life around. And so 2 weeks later, because well, my wife finally did talk to me. She's like, "Why don't you sign up for that race? You've been talking about wanting to do a trail race." And I was like, "Okay."
Mhm.
Signed up. And that morning, as the Eastern Staters were leaving, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, these people are going to run 100 miles." And here I am. I have never run anything more than 7 or 8 miles, and I'm going to attempt a 50K. You know, what in the world was I thinking? But that was the cool thing for me, I think, this year with Eastern States, is that fast forward 9 years, and that very first trail run, you know, having self-doubt whether or not I'm even going to finish a 50K, and there's thinking to myself, there's no way I'd ever think about running 100 miles, and to have completed it, and just it was a surreal experience. It was something. So yeah, so that's what got me into running, and I enjoy it. And sometimes I come home from work and I'm a little grumpy Gretchen, and my wife is like, "Go for a run," and it's an outlet for me. It just
yeah. It's wild how running can sometimes after something happens that snaps things into perspective, then it can be a way to refocus energy. You know?
Absolutely, yeah, because I usually have an overabundance of energy, so I'm focusing it towards positive things. So
yeah,
definitely.
absolutely. And you know, since that time, you have not just refocused your own energy, but I think also just been an inspiration for a lot of other people out there. I mean, if there's somebody who's loud at a race, it's probably John Shaffer. If it's not John Shaffer, if it's a female voice, it might be me. If it's a male voice, it's
I
probably
was going to say either you or my daughter Emily when she's out taking photographs, because you typically hear her before you see her as well, so she gets that honestly.
Yeah. Oh, she's awesome. I've had a fun summer getting to know her a little bit better. So also some questions are coming through already, so I want to make sure that we get a chance to get all of these in. Ben had asked, you know, rumor has it that you came from a farm in Smallville, Kansas. Is that true?
No, actually, I was born in Stamford, Connecticut, and moved to PA
I think this question's not quite right. I think you were
when I was 2.
Found at a farm in Smallville, Kansas, right?
That's right. That's right.
And also related, why are you never seen in the same place at the same time? Maybe just like Batman.
Just trying to stay ahead of the crowds and those that are after me. So trying to stay one step ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think like superheroes, you're seen as a superhero and inspiration to so many people out on the trails. So that's pretty awesome.
Well, that's
just say thank you. Say thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
There you go. You're welcome. All right, let's get into some trail ultra road, whatever kind of advice. If let's say we're out on our run together, ready? This is
okay.
Where would we go on a run? Where would you take somebody?
Well, if you came up here, we definitely go up. We definitely go up Pine Creek. I mean, Zindel, I like, but especially when I don't want to be around people, because you know Zindel is very popular. I like either Ramsey or Gamble Run is probably my favorite go-to spot, because you can get some real quick elevation and short miles, and then you know you can reward yourself with the swimming hole. So,
there you go. I like that idea. I love the water. So And when you say up here, northern Pennsylvania, right?
Correct. Yes. Yep. Yep.
Northern PA. If we came down here, I would. You want something more technical or more runnable?
No, see, I like the technical.
Technical.
Running
That's what I
stuff's for
thought.
the birds.
So I'd probably take you to the Four Bitches. That's probably where I'd take you. That's where we'd go. We'd hit up the Four Bitches, which the Four Bitches is a section of what's Shanks to Shanks, Shanksmere Outfitters to Shanks Ferry Road. That's probably what we would do. 9 miles of torture.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that because, you know, you go for a road run or something. It's like, yeah, you get done. It's like, okay, I did my miles. But, you know, if you get beat up and you're out there, you're breathing hard and you trip, stumble, scrape the ankles. Yeah, then you know you've done something.
Yeah. Come out a little bloody.
That's right. Absolutely.
All right. So we have our location set. If we're running together, and what if I'm saying,
okay, prior to running. So if you say a time, so if you say that we want to start running, we want to be on the trail at 8:00. Tell me 7:30. Just tuck that away, and anyone that's run with me will definitely they'll testify to that one, that that's probably a good thing. So
you're gonna be like, okay, I'm gonna be
10 minutes.
I'm gonna be 15 minutes early. You just
never know.
You never know.
I mix it up once in a while for Craig. You know, if he tells me we're going to meet at 7:30, sometimes I show up at 7:15 or 7:00, and usually though it's more like 7:35 or 7:40. But
now, here's what I will say: is while you're waiting for me, you'll hear me before you see me. You'll hear my music from my car.
I was going to say, well, not so much my music, but you'll definitely hear the horn. You'll hear me coming. Yeah, Tessie or Adam Kolb will testify to that. That you'll definitely hear me before you see me. Yeah, I like to announce 10 minutes. All right, come on, just give me a little grace there.
All right. So we got there. We're starting at 8.
Right.
Okay. None of this early. No 5 a.m. runs.
I like to go early. Yeah, I like to go early, but 8:00's fine.
No, 8's good. 8's good. We could do like a 7:30, but let's not push it. Let's not.
Okay. All right.
Let's
not get too crazy like 6 or something.
No.
Okay.
That's gross. Okay. I like my sleep. Sleep is important. And I think, and let me ask you this, like, how important is sleep to you and to like preparing for races and training and all that? How much do you prioritize sleep?
It all depends on what time the start time is, but I like to get, it's nice to get 6 hours. Normally it's more like 5 hours sleep, but 6 is like an optimum number for me. And I function well on 6 hours.
Oof. I need 8 hours of sleep. I struggle with sleeping before races. But to some extent, and I've heard studies on this, to some extent, the night before, if you can get a really good night's sleep, then you're in pretty good shape. But I struggle to sleep the night before. Usually I get 8 hours of sleep, and I can sleep anywhere. That's one of my superpowers. When I was doing the horseshoe, my attempt at the FKT, it was literally like noon, and I just laid down with my head on a rock in the middle of the trail, closed my eyes and fell asleep. Like I can just I don't need to be comfortable. It doesn't have to be a certain time of day. I can sleep sitting up. So that's super fun.
Yeah. There's pictures out there of me falling asleep in various positions. My pacers at the end of Eastern States, I wanted to lay down for 5 minutes. We were on that flat spot of the mid-state, past Hackett's, and you're going through some nice pines, and there's pine needles down. The sun was bright in the afternoon. So just give me 5 minutes just to lay down. Like, we don't have time. So when I finished with an hour and 45 minutes to go, I said, we had 5 minutes for me to close my eyes, but that was all good.
Yeah. So yeah, sleeping, I think sleep's a huge priority. And for me, I've especially had to do this lately. My work has been pretty hard. I've had to choose sleep versus joining group runs. So I've been doing more solo running just because I'm working so much right now, and it's all good work. And I'm, frankly, spending time with my husband, which is good. So
that's always
like
good.
between all those things, yeah, like priorities, and then there's not the time left over, and so I just end up not sleeping in, but just prioritizing sleep and getting a full 8 hours instead of trying to cut it back to 5 hours and do all the things. And I don't know. I think sleep's super important. So.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah, because if not, then you don't see me for a day or two afterwards because I'm trying to catch up on that lost sleep after a race.
Another question came through. I love all these questions. Have you ever fought someone while they were trying to steal your pot of gold?
I've chased a couple people off. Yeah, I've chased them off. And then just tell them, don't be greedy. I'll be more than glad to share.
Yeah.
But, you don't need to take the whole pot.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of
fair.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's fair. I like it.
Yeah.
And then, so when does Rockin' the Knob start? This question came through about a 7 a.m. start for Rockin' the Knob.
I am unable to do that this year, which is actually, I believe it's this Saturday, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think it is because we've got a family reunion and then a surprise 50th wedding anniversary. So, yeah, my whole day is consumed. So I'll make it out there one of these years.
Yeah, same.
I like a good challenge.
Rockin' the Knob is this weekend. Oh, man.
I thought so.
I hear good stuff about that race, too. It's so hard to get all the races on the calendar. What do you have next on your calendar?
Oh, this Sunday, the 20th anniversary, the 20th running of the Dam Half by the Mid-Penn Trailblazers. So, yeah, and they're going to do a finish on the beach. So you've got the option to stop in the sand or just keep right on going into the lake. So it should be a good time.
Keep on going into the lake every time.
That's right.
No matter the weather. That should always be the answer. Are you doing Boulder Beast?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yep. I'm still on the fence whether I'm doing the 25 or the 50 because they both have their pluses and minuses. Like you do the 25, you get done sooner and you can enjoy everyone's company and the food and the party afterwards. And but at the same time, you do the 50, the longer. The people you get to run with on the trail is cool, and
there's so many races like that. Like I think it was 3 years in a row I did Frozen Snot, the long course. Mm-hmm. And then 1 year I decided to do the short course, and it was amazing because I got to hang out. I ended up hanging out with the Luberas and talking to them for a while, and I just had a great time. And I was like, why have I been doing the long
Why would I do the long one exactly? But
I think that race like that, and then Heiner. I've done the 50K, but I've also done the 25, and the 25 is like it's kind of great.
So we did. Tessie and I did the 50 2 years ago, and that was when Carl passed away. 3 races ago now, 2 years, and then so last year, 2 years ago. So 3 races ago is when Carl passed. Tessie and I were halfway through the 50K, and then 2 races ago did the 50K on race day, and then last year did the 25K. And I'm like, yeah, this is great. The 50K is a nice experience, but this is really fun being at the finish, cheering everyone on as they come across the finish line.
Yeah.
My
friend Lacey and I hiked the whole thing. And it was lovely. Like we kind of switched over to a jog for a little bit here and there, but for the most part, we just hiked it, and it was awesome.
So Lizzie, middle daughter, the one that started running with me when she was 12, when I started running. So kind of got out of it when she got into college, but her senior year here, she's got a pretty good schedule. So she's actually running the dam half this weekend, and she wants to do the Heiner 50K in the spring. And she's like, "You're going to run it with me, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Okay, I get it.
So, no.
All right. Are you recovered from your great performance at Eastern States?
Yeah, surprisingly enough, it's like, Kip's feet every year. I mean, they do get better as he's done it 3 times now. They are getting better. They're still awful to look at, but like Mike Shutt, I ran with him for 20 some miles right after Lower Pine Bottom, pretty much to Heiner, and it was so awesome to see him come across the finish line. But like the bottom of his feet were destroyed. It's like, I don't even know how you finished on feet like that. But I had no problems with my feet. Had a little bit of bruising on top because I had my shoelaces too tight, but Steve Pagano, saw him at Ritchie Roads. He showed me how to flex my foot and retie my shoes, and had no problems. At Tome Flats, then I took the Vaseline, because I heard a woman 2 years ago when I was pacing someone at Eastern States. She was saying the best and the most amazing her feet ever felt was her crew didn't even take time to take her socks off. Instead, they just slathered, just gobbed. Basically, if you're packing a wheel bearing or something, they just pushed the Vaseline into her socks and threw her shoes back on. She said her feet never felt so good. So, I did a complete clothing change.
On the outside of her socks?
Yeah, on the outside of her socks, then threw her shoes back on. Yeah. So, at Tone
So
Flats,
for somebody who's never packed a wheel bearing before, how much Vaseline is that? It's a lot.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I had a regular size, not like the jumbo size container that Jennifer had in my pack, but I probably used half of it on both of my feet, but I put it on before I put my socks on. But yeah, I had no problems with my feet. And actually, my cousin dropped at Heiner this year. He had real bad stomach issues. So Tuesday, I had taken off Monday and Tuesday, and I said, "Hey, let's run up Gamble." I said, "Let's just go up the swimming hole. We'll take my new running buddy." For those that follow me on Facebook, they've seen Penny. She's an offspring of Skeeter, the amazing wonder dog of Matt Lipsy. So she's 5 months. Another month here, we can really get her out in the trails. We would taken her, 2-3 miles, and you do hike walk with her. But so my cousin James and we just did 4 miles up Gamble on Tuesday after Eastern States and had no problems. That Saturday, I went out with Emily. She was photographing Bob Bauer's Cook Forest, and I said, "Bob, do you have an extra bib?" He's like, "Are you gonna run?" I'm like, "I don't have anything else to do. Emily only brought one camera," so I ran that with Dan Kozak and had a good time. So yeah, I really had no problems. Everything for someone that isn't a serious runner per se, just I had a great weekend at Eastern States. Everything went well.
A serious runner? What's the definition of a serious runner? If you're not, if running Eastern States is not for serious runners.
Okay, then maybe I shouldn't have used serious runner. Maybe we should have went with there's 2 camps, maybe two different types of runners. There's those that are very regimented, that I've got to do X amount of miles per week, and then a week and a half leading up to the race, I start to taper, and I only do so many miles. And then there's just those that just kind of go willy-nilly, throw caution to the wind. And I did a lot of trail work leading up to Eastern States, but as we were saying before the show went live there, that 2 weeks prior, a friend of mine who was running Eastern States for the first time this year, and he's done a lot of other 100-milers, but never won. He's traveled out of the state for him. So this was his first time doing Eastern States, which he was successful with. We just did 28 miles from Ramsey over to Woolrich and back on the mid-state with a few detours here and there, and did that overnight. And that was 2 weeks prior to the race, and that was my longest. So
yeah. Okay.
That would be a good one, Donald, because I'm telling you what, Mountain of Hope or Mountain of Despair, but that's a good race. The benefits are, it's a really good cause. So
Don,
it's a real good cause.
Don put into the chat, I think you should take Grayce for a fun run on Mount of Hope half marathon course. I don't know. I have never been there.
Yeah, it's a good one. If you travel 80 from 15 and you get off at the Salona Mill Hall exit, you come through the Narrows and you look over to a boulder field on your right before the Mill Hall exit. And it's not like a boulder field like Boulder Beast is, or you've been to Barb's KMA on over in Zindel. Those rocks don't move. The boulder field on Mountain of Hope, they move.
Oh boy!
So it's a good one. You definitely know you did something after completing that race.
Yeah.
So.
Now you did mention something that I'm not going to let you get away with. You did some trail work prior to Eastern States, and I think you're well known as volunteering a lot for races, either before, during, or after the race. So what are some of the races that you get involved with, and what do you do, and like why do you do it? Why?
Well, like I like to tell people that, what trail running has done for my life, I could work every day on trails and until my last breath, and I still could not repay everything the trail running community and just the people involved in the community has done in my life. So it's just the way in which I can give back, because, and, it's funny because, well, I do it because, there are trails I run, so it makes it easier for me and everyone else just to benefit from it. But no, the more people you can get out to enjoy the outdoors, the better. It's like Lizzie, I want to say she was 14 one time, and we were up Pine Creek and, came across the waterfall, and she's like, Dad, this is just beautiful. Do you know how many of my friends will never see anything like this because they go to school, they go home, sit on their couch, and they don't do anything. And so, you make the trails more accessible. Hopefully it encourages more people to get out and use them and just see everything our state has to offer. And, I've run up in the New England states, and, we're fortunate enough, a bunch of us, to go to Colorado last year. And, Colorado was beautiful. I'll go back in a heartbeat to run out there, but I really like where we live in North Central PA.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah. And we have some great organizations too. I think, for anybody out there who's not involved in trail work, there's a lot of organizations out there. You can get involved. They have classes.
Oh, yeah.
And they'll teach you what to do, or you can head out there with somebody else and they'll show you what to do. Keystone Trails Association is pretty big. The Lancaster Conservancy is pretty big. And
even the Pennsylvania DCNR.
Yeah.
Because if you go and fill out their volunteer form and you record your hours, but if you get hurt volunteering for them, they'll pay your workman's comp. I mean, it's kind of a cool deal. It's a good gig. So
that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's
Go play with sharp things.
Well, our recreational forester up here on the Tide Otten State Forest, Ben Sands, he offers the chainsaw class. And I forget how many we had, and that was from Allegheny trail runners, and then a bunch of us from the trail dogs the last 2 years. And he's put quite a few people through that program. It's like an 8-hour day where you have some classroom instruction and you have hands-on, and it's a really good thing. And someone that's been in the woods with a chainsaw for 15, 20 years, cutting firewood and being in the woods, I actually learned some stuff. So it's good.
And I think even if you're not cutting up logs, like there's more often than not, the work that needs to be done is like cutting back grasses with a weed whacker. So and there are and when you talk to these organizations, there's a lot of people who maintain them already. If they can be broken up into smaller sections, all the better. I think a lot of the people out there who adopt sections of trail, a lot of them have maybe not extra time on their hands, but more time, because it's a lot of people who are retired. And so it's up to the next generation to go learn how to do all of these things.
Yeah.
My husband and I took a piece of the Mason-Dixon Trail. We have a 2.5 mile section, And you don't have to know how to cut logs for that. So neither one of us is certified yet. We report any downed trees to the next person in line. So that's Dave and Roxanne Strine. And we just let Dave know, hey, there's a tree down. He takes care of the tree. But then we cut all the grass back.
Yep.
We clean up any trash. And we report those sightings. So we maintain that piece of trail, even though we're not certified. So there's a lot of work to be done for anybody out there who's interested, even if you don't have I'd say like when there's a storm that happens, there's a lot of downed trees. But other than that, it's a lot of cutting back grass.
That's important though, too, that when you're out on the trails and you're just out for a run and you see issues and stuff, it's good to let someone know, because that way, we're not wasting time looking for work, because there's plenty of work to be done all the time. But it's like, hey, I was just over on Spike Buck, and there was 3 trees down about the middle. So, whether you want to come in from the top or the bottom, but there's 3 pretty good sized trees blocking the trail. It's just good to know. And that way it's easier to keep the trails maintained and clear. So
yeah.
Definitely.
I think reporting that stuff super important, but man, if once a year, this is my recommendation. Once a year, if everybody involved could go out and clear some trail, volunteer for a race, crew somebody, and pace somebody. If you do one of each of those things, like that, really, that's given back so much.
Well, yeah, and running races is great. It's fun. But it is so much fun to work an aid station, like you said, or just even be at the start finish line to cheer people on with a cowbell. I know, John Johnson, you don't like the cowbell, but for the rest of us that do, just wear earplugs.
It depends on the race. Frozen
right.
I'll take the cowbell at the top.
That's right. Well, I remember the first year I did it. They carried that big gong up. I'm like, oh my gosh. Yes. Is there a church bell? Is there a church around here somewhere? But yeah, that's all fun stuff. But
I would challenge anybody next year when you're making your bucket list or your annual goals, and you want to PR your 5K or run your first 100, add to that list, do a trail work day, crew somebody, pace somebody, and volunteer at a race. That's my recommendation.
Absolutely. Great recommendations, Grayce. I couldn't agree more with you, because it's just, I don't know. It's neat. It's rewarding. Like you said, when you pace someone, to see them finish, and you're like, I had a small part in that, in their success, and absolutely.
Yeah. And I think you learn a lot, just like Eastern States this year. I, of course, was head crew for Laura. And I learned, I don't know that I ever want to do that race. I DNF'd it twice. And now that I've seen it all the way through to the finish by crewing somebody else, I'm like, you know what? I think I might be good. I think that's as much as I need to see of it.
Fair enough. Well, and that's what people ask me if I were to do it again. And I don't think I need to. I want to definitely be a part of it, whether, like you said, it's working an aid station, pacing someone, crewing someone, definitely being a part of it. But for me, I'm good. I did it. And like I said, I don't know if I would ever have, it was just, it was something coming off Panther, and, you break into the open there, you hit the hard top pavement, and you come into the lower end there, and, coming across the grass. And I was seeing people that, aren't typical runners, but they were there to cheer me on. And, it was something.
I bet.
It was very humbling.
You're good for the year. You don't need to do anything else.
That's right.
Alicia Lehman said, how often do you come across snakes? That's a fear that holds me back.
Well, then just wait till fall here. Wait another month or two, and you'll be good to go till March, April. But you run across them, by and large, poor rattlesnakes get a bad they get a bad rap because I've never really, maybe once or twice in the 9 years I've ran, have I run across like an aggressive one. By and
Mhm.
large, they just want to be left alone. Take a picture of them or two and just keep going.
I think
Um,
I probably run across them maybe twice a year, personally. And I here's what I always look for is like snake conditions. I remember I was running Baker, and there was a point of the day where it was just nice and toasty warm, and there was this section of trail that was going through the grass, and it was nice and mowed in the middle, and it was high on either side. I'm like, man, this is where
this is
snakes
good
like to lay
snake
down.
country.
And I
Absolutely.
started watching my feet, and sure enough, it was a small one. And I saw a snake go by, and I'm like, "Yep, that's probably the only one I'll see of the day." But
Yeah.
yep, that snake condition. And you get back into the shade, and I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to see a snake."
Right.
They have certain conditions that they like to hang out.
Although the next two sticks you step on or trip over kind of startle you after seeing a snake, but it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. I think for me, ticks
Yeah,
scare me.
absolutely, absolutely. I would deal with 10 angry rattlesnakes over a tick. Ticks
Right.
freak me out.
Yeah.
That's
I'm scared of ticks, and I just personally, I think bears and snakes are probably much lower on the list. Higher on the list is ticks, dehydration, and what do you call that when you're really cold?
hypothermia.
Yeah,
Hypothermia.
hypothermia, dehydration, and ticks. Those are probably my top. Scarier.
I never really went past one, ticks being number one, but yeah,
Dehydration.
dehydration.
Let's list all the scary things, John.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, when we were out in Colorado, we were on Cherokee Mountain, and it was a hot day. Oh my goodness! And there wasn't a lot of water, and we all ran out. It was awful. I mean, anyone that ran that race that run that day, they had a nice comfort facility in the parking lot. And it was air conditioned inside, and I think we were all laying on the concrete. Just but it was bad. The last 3 miles, none of us, I don't think, had water, and it was hot because it was basically like prairie conditions. There was no trees.
Yeah.
But yeah, so dehydration, that's a good one. Yeah, I never really
Dehydration.
thought about that one much. Yeah.
And Alicia had added in here, I almost stepped on a rattlesnake. So I mean, that can absolutely kind of freak you out a little bit. It's definitely had that effect on me before, and I think it's just getting out there over and over, and knowing that it's a fear, and sometimes you know it's a fear, and then you do it anyway. It's just like, I think it's real similar to, if you're in a car accident and it shakes you up for a little bit,
Oh, absolutely. But but there again, though, you've got to get back, back at like the horse that bucks you off. You got to get back on the saddle, because the longer you wait, I think that fear just grows and intensifies. So you just got to get back out there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Name them, talk to them a little bit.
That's right. That's right. And plus, Alicia, don't go by yourself. You always go with a friend and make that person go first.
See, that's my problem. I'm always in the front. People do this to me. They're like, I'm sick of cobwebs. Go ahead, Grayce.
That just happened with Adam the other day. I'm like, can you jump up in the air or what? Because I'm still getting whacked in the face by these things. Gotta carry a big stick.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Running out of toilet paper is scarier. Whew, man. I had one particular experience that was awful. I was with Julia, and thankfully, she had provisions with her. I did not, because it was only I was like, it's just 7 miles, no big deal. But I was not going to make it. It wasn't going to happen. There was going to be a sacrificial sock or a sacrificial buff.
Well, I know, knock on wood, it's only ever happened to me once, and it was at CJ's Resolution. And
that is such a short course. How did that happen?
Oh gosh, I think it was because I ate a ham and cheese sandwich with mustard on the way over. It's probably not the best breakfast food, but I didn't even make the first lap. And I'm like, before I crossed the arches, they're yelling at me, "Where are you going?" I said, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Just let me alone. So I was fortunate that they have the bathrooms open there, but
Yeah.
oof, that was rough. But yeah, that's the only time. I mean, knock on wood, that I've ever had that problem.
Yeah.
Well,
I've had some close calls. I've had some scenarios. uh, some other good ones coming in here. Bees. So John had said bees, yellow jackets, and nest in the ground this time of year. I just got stung on my neck. You can probably see it. It's a little bit red.
yeah, I see what. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Saturday. I was doing hill repeats at High Point, and I got stung in the neck. Yeah.
So next time you get stung, I gave this at Happy Dutchman. There was a poor guy that came in. He's like, "Hey, I got nailed like 3 times. I can't take the one on my foot." I'm like, he was desperate because my dad 3 weeks prior to that, I got stung by a bee on the top of my foot. It was just throbbing. It wouldn't stop. He's like, "Get that broadleaf plantain right there, chew it up, and stick it on your foot." Now, this is my dad. He is a farmer, so I'm like, I take with what he says with a grain of salt. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try it. But I picked the leaves, took them in the sink, washed them off, chewed them up, stuck. It looked like silage. It was disgusting looking, but I stuck it on top of my foot. Within 30 seconds, the stinging stopped. So this poor guy at Happy Dutchman, it's like where everyone's standing. He's like, "What plant?" I'm like, "Well, right there's a couple." He's pulling the leaves. Who knows what could have happened to those plants? He chewed them up, stuck them on his foot, and yeah, it quit stinging. So. And actually, I swell up, and I really didn't even swell up. It's called a broadleaf plantain. And if you don't treat your lawn with ChemLawn or True Green or anything like that, you probably have them in your yard.
Okay. All right. We're going to have to find the recipe and put it up on the page.
Yep.
Pick them, put them in your mouth.
Yep. Chew them up and just stick it right on there. Not very hygienic, but it works. Let me tell you, it's your own saliva, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. And Don had said, a yellow jacket, one time it can sting you, and you can develop allergies. And I think that's the scariest thing. I know when I was running after I got stung, I was kind of like monitoring my breathing. I'm like, can I breathe? Yes, I can breathe. It's just because of the hill. I'm fine.
Oh, you're not gonna be able to see. Oh yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Broadleaf plantain.
Broadleaf plantain. Chew them up. Put them on your bee sting.
Yep.
Let me know if it works.
That's right. Give us some feedback. I want to know if it worked or not.
All right. What other tips do you have? What's some of the craziest advice you've ever gotten? Or you thought it was crazy at the time and it really worked?
Well, I remember the first time meeting Craig Fleming. A group of us we were up on the Mid-State Spike Buck over there at Happy Acres. It was the wintertime, and Lizzie and I headed down Spike Buck, and I slipped on a flat rock and could not understand what I gouged my shin with. So we get down to the road, and I'm like, "Liz, I gotta look." And she's like, "Oh, Dad, don't look. It's bad." It was just this nasty gash. And we finished out that run. I think we went to Waterville that day, which is part of the Call of the Wild 25K course. And so the next day, Bill McConnell's like, "Hey, a bunch of us are going to hire. You want to go along?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." I said, "How many miles we figure?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to cut it short. We're only going to do like 7 or 8. I'm like, "All right, I really don't need anything." Fortunately, there was snow on the ground because I didn't take any water. So I am eating snow, and I found a banana on the trail, and I carried it for like 2 miles. And
just a banana from heaven, just
I was from a runner, ahead of us or what, because it wasn't frozen. So I'm assuming someone had dropped out of their pack. But I'm finally like, okay, I'm eating this sucker because I'm not gonna make it. But ran into Craig as I'm walking up the escarpment, and he's like, "There's no walking and trail running." I'm like, "Look, I can't even breathe. I'm glad I can still move forward." But that was early on in my running career. But any good advice? Well, you know what? I'll tell you 2 tidbits, and it's true. And Stacy, who was he was my last pacer along with Lizzie. Stacy went from Blackwell to the end, and we picked Lizzie up at the Barrens. But oh gosh, years ago, he's like, lengthen out that stride. And then another friend said, when you want to walk, run, keep running. And you know what? it helps. Just keeping those little things in the back of your mind. It's like, okay, don't run, or don't walk. Just keep running, even if you slow your pace down a little bit, but keep running. And then, when you get your energy back, it's like, all right, lengthen that stride out. And I don't know, simple, but they work. Nice. And as I was telling you earlier, what works for me when I do get short of breath is, I go back to our Lamaze classes there when they tell the women how to breathe, and I'll do the two quick breaths in and then a long exhale out. And you do that for like a half minute to a minute. It really helps to regulate my breathing. So it's something that works for me. But yeah. So.
Everybody's going to have amazing runs from here on out. They're going to be friends with all the snakes.
Yeah, that's right. Oh.
There's so many things. I think that's probably, I don't think I heard this advice. I don't know. This is my advice, is just to go on runs with people and learn from other people.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
The most that I've ever learned has not been from websites. It's been podcasts, books, and running with other people and talking to other people.
Well, I'll tell you what, I actually did listen to a podcast. I can't remember the gentleman's name, who's an ultra runner. And he was saying, you're doing 100K or 100 miler, he said, or longer distances. He said, if the course has a lot of water, he said, make a point to stop, whether you're wearing a bandana, a buff, or whatever, and wipe your arms down, wipe the back of your neck, your face, your legs, to keep your pores clear and keep the salt off of them. And I'll tell you what, I did that at Eastern States. Every time we ran across water, I stopped and, I doused myself. And like I said, I had a good weekend. I've
heard that too. And I've pushed up. I've been in some really hot races, 95 degrees, and been able to keep fairly cool by running cool water over my arms every chance that I get, every creek crossing. And it helps.
Well, I was going to say, and even, if I'm starting to get overheated and I can hear the aid station up ahead, if I've got any water left in my bottles, I'll, squirt it on the back of my neck and my head. And it seems to help to keep your body down. So.
Now, what about we had a listener, and I'm not going to remember who it was. Somebody had said, they were getting ready for their first 5K. And so I want to hear that. What is your advice to somebody getting ready for their first 5K?
Go out and have fun and go balls to the walls till the wheels come off. Because you're going to finish it, even if you got to crawl across the finish line. But go out and have fun.
Yeah. Go out and have fun. I love that. Yeah. If it's an out and back, I think especially in road races, people don't expect it as much. But my suggestion is to say good job to everybody.
Oh, absolutely. There again, I'm always encouraging, but that's one thing about the 150K, because it loops back on itself. It's great. It's just neat. It's like Tessie and I, we were just coming to the infamous V as Reagan's coming up the other side. You're coming back, and we're like, oh man. And then we passed. I think Adam that year was running 6th or 7th. We passed him, and it was fun because you're cheering them on because they're crushing it. It's just like,
oh, it's so cool.
We have a lot to do to get back to where they're at now.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It was not last year, but the year before, when I was hiking with my friend Lacey, Keith was doing the 50K. Keith Query, who everybody knows. He was doing the 50K. He comes up behind me. I was like, oh, Keith, awesome. I'm like, you go ahead and pass this. He's like, no, I want to hang here with you for a second. I'm like, awesome. So we caught up really quick. And then we get to SOB, and then he starts running up it because he was feeling good, got a little bit of a break there. And then I run up it behind him, and I didn't run as far as he did, but it was cool because we got to, he was doing the 50, I was doing the 25. And we kind of paired up. So it's always fun to do that. I think that's one of my suggestions to people who are transitioning from road to trail. It is odd when you first do it. When you first switch from road to trail, you don't realize that it is customary to say hello to everybody you pass.
Oh, absolutely.
If you are passing a group if they're in a cluster, you can say, good job, runners, or something like that. But if they are spaced out and there's 50 of them, you say hi to everybody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a lot.
So, Call the Wilds last year, before you come down onto 44, you come into a hollow. So if you're headed down, you can see the people that are coming into the hollow. And Sam Weaver, Road Smoker, the two of them, you can hear the two of them before you see them. And I'm like, I know those voices. I look over, I see them. I'm like, hey, ladies, how you doing? Hey, I'm like, yo, pretty ladies, how's it going this morning? Nothing. And then finally, I'm like, yo, bitches, how's it going? They're like, oh, Shaffer. I'm like, seriously? I'm trying to pay you 2 compliments. Like, we're not used to people calling us ladies. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, but I think it's my advice for anybody going for their first 5K is to absolutely just have fun with it, soak it all in, take all the pictures, and then sprint the finish. I think that's
absolutely. And meet new people, talk to people.
Yeah. It's weird though when you switch from road to trail, and you can see there are some trail races that are a little more conducive to. You tend to see more road runners or first time trail runners, and you're like, you can if you've been doing it for a long time, you're like, oh, they probably haven't done this before or haven't done a lot of trail races. But I think if it's your first trail race, just know that you will say hi to a lot of people. A lot of people are going to say hi to you.
Or a lot of people, and you're like, why are these people all saying hi to me? Why are they so friendly?
Yeah, I think it weirds them out in the beginning. Some people, some people are all for it, but it is a little strange. I think another one, here's another thing that I've seen, and I've heard people talk about this at races. There's a particular race that I do, and it tends to attract a good chunk of road runners. And I heard a conversation out on the trail. There was somebody who was very upset because they were running right behind somebody and the person in front of them didn't move. And they didn't say anything. So they didn't say on your left.
Exactly.
And in road running, if you're running right behind somebody, usually the person in front of you moves out of the way. But in trail running, that's not the case. No. It's the opposite. And I remember the first time this happened to me, I was running my first 50 miler, and I almost moved out of the way for this guy who was behind me. And he said, don't you go anywhere. You are pacing me right now, and I am running a 100 miler, and I've got a long ways to go. I'm not in a good place right now, and I need you.
Oh, that's cool. That's nothing wrong with that.
All right, I'll stay right where I am. And I learned that in trail running, you don't move to the side unless somebody asks you on your left, on your right, can I get past you real quick? You're actually not supposed to move.
Or if I hear footprints or footsteps behind me, I'll be like, hey, when you went around me, just let me know, and it's like they're in a hurry. They're feeling it. Like, I'll just step off to the side. Like, yeah, I got to pass you. I just get out of the way for them.
I think you can, but sometimes the person behind you doesn't want you to move.
Right. Absolutely. Well, that's what they'll say too. Oh no, you're fine. I'm fine following you. It's like, okay.
Right. And I also learned through experience to not turn around and ask, do you want me to move? Because that is when you will trip and fall.
Trip and fall on a root, a rock, or
and hit your patella on a rock and stop running for 2 months. So what I tend to do is I'll wait until I hear them, and then I'll say, let me know when you'd like to pass. Yep. I think is appropriate. But I think for those people who are, they're gearing up for their first trail run, just so you know, it's slightly different rules out on the trails. A lot of times somebody will not move over unless you ask them to, but it's because they're trying to be nice. They think that you might like their pace.
I'll tell you something else. We just came off of this past Saturday, we wrapped up the our kids series with Smallfoot, down in Mifflinburg at Camp Mount Luther. And I'm telling you what, just getting into trail racing or something and you're not so sure about it, go to one of the kids' races because one, it's refreshing. It's like, more adults should act like these kids out on the trails because like they're just there to support one another. Come on, buddy, you can do it. I mean, there's a little 6 or 7-year-old saying this to his little friend, and it's just, two little kids holding hands, helping one another, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I have because I dress up as a pirate and get to squirt people, so it's come on out and volunteer, or just be on the course there just to watch these little kids. And we had over 200 this past weekend. It's a really cool thing. It's just, it's
it is neat to see all the kids getting into the sport. And I love this comment that came in. I ran for a bit with 2 Roadrunner guys up at Sproul this year, had a fun conversation with them. And absolutely, I think if you can, I try to engage conversation with those people who I'm like, man, they've got their headphones in on a 10K. And, maybe I can kind of lure them out a little bit. And certainly I wear headphones too on some races, but try to pull them out a little bit. And I think only because I had awesome people who did that for me. There was a woman, I ran KTA. Was it KT? No, it was Iron Masters 50K. And her name was Michelle, and she was just amazing. And she really started to show me how fun a 50K can be. And I think that's another big difference is a road run. A lot of times, you're trying to hit your PR, you're trying to hit your pace. And so that's just a little bit of a different mentality. And it's nothing wrong with that either. You got to be focused, get your pace. That's cool. But on trail running, you can hit your goal and have a little fun with it on the downhills and things like that. So I think that's another little difference. And so it's great to kind of engage those folks. And if you're a road runner, if you're going to your first trail race, don't be afraid to have some fun conversation. And if people talk to you a lot, that's normal.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, and those that don't want to engage in conversation, that inspires them to run faster and they get away from me. So
and that's okay too. I've certainly
absolutely.
Man, I'm in my zone. I was running Georgia Death Race, and I was really worried about cutoffs. I needed to, if I start talking, I start slowing down, and I knew that I couldn't do that. So I was running. And it was the COVID year. So it was an out and back that year. And I'm running on the out section. We haven't turned around yet. So I wasn't even I was probably like a third of the way through this race. So I'm good with cutoffs, but I'm paying attention to it. And this guy I'm running with, super nice guy. And he's just, telling me about himself, and he's from Florida and all that. And I find myself just a smidge faster than him. And he starts saying, we should run the whole race together. I really like your pace, all this stuff. We should run it together. And I'm just a smidge too fast. So then we come up on this other guy, and I was like, hey, what's your name and everything? He says he's from Florida. And I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy's from Florida, too. I passed them both. And it just kept going. So sometimes,
Yeah, you didn't leave him in the dust. You found him another running partner, and then you went and did your own thing. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
So nothing wrong with running your own race either, and certainly road or trail. But if it is your first trail race, I think there's a couple nuances. I remember my friend Trish, she's so great. She crewed me for my first 50 miler, and she made signs for me. And it was a looped course, so I came around for the loop. And she at one point was like, I don't think they do this. I don't think they do signs in trail running. I was like, occasionally, but not very often. No. Not a lot of signs. There's maybe t-shirts and hats, but not a lot of
absolutely. Oh shoot,
man! Yeah. This has just been this has been a nice long run. I hope everybody listening, if you're listening to this on the podcast on your run, I hope you had a great run. Listen to Shaffer and his stories, get to know him a little bit. we certainly miss Eric and hope that he has an amazing race.
Yes. He and Rhoda both.
Oh, that's right. Rhoda's running the team.
We have two Pennsylvanians up there representing.
Oh, man, so, Rhoda Smoker.
Yeah. We have two idiots running the representing the brand here. So
yeah,
they're both do well. I don't no doubt in my mind.
Yeah. So wish them the best of luck and happy that you were able to substitute.
Yes, Eric. Thank you. Hopefully this will be the first of many substitutes you get on here that I didn't screw it up. I didn't screw it up for any future guest hosts.
No, we hope to have other substitutes, and of course, welcome Eric back next year with his rhymes and his.
Next year, where's he going to be?
Next week.
Now oh, okay.
It's getting late.
Failure.
All right. Gabe had put this in here. What is this rumor about CJ's, John?
Oh, okay. So,
and bring it from the beginning. So there is a race called CJ's Resolution Run, correct. Which last year was the last year for that race.
Janelle had done it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And, of course, many of you who know the story that her son CJ has autism, and she wanted to do something to bring more awareness to children with autism. And so she started CJ's Resolutions. So she did it for 10 years and just, it's been a good run, and she wants to spend time, with her children and other interests. But
pretty big event in January.
Absolutely. I felt that it was too big of an event because it's kind of like the kickoff of the running season. You know what I mean? We come off, November pretty much is the end of, the majority of your races. And you've got December and we get into January, and it's like, it's just a nice kickoff before the frozen snot. And so I badgered Joel Heasley and the Mid-Penn Trailblazers there, and we had a meeting, and everything was on track to do it this year. And then we had a few unforeseen things happen with some of our core group that we are going to postpone. We don't want to rush it and do it half-assed. So it will definitely be on the docket for 2024. Okay. And we are going to change the name. It's not going to be CJ's. We are going to call it Loops for Hope. And we are going to it will still benefit bringing awareness to autism, but then also we want to bring awareness to mental health as well. So it'll be two great organizations that it's going to benefit. So stay tuned, and as we iron out the details and everything, they will be forthcoming, and we'll keep everyone in the loop. But unfortunately for 23, we were hoping to get it off and going. It's not going to happen, but definitely for
2024. You actually mean 2025 it's going to be happening, right?
Yep, we are in 2023 now, so yes, not 2024, 2025.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. There we go.
Hey, yeah.
So for 2025, and after talking to the former race director, like this is the wish of the former race director is to go ahead and Marie Kondo kind of sunset the previous one. Bring another one about that has the same format but with a new name. So this has all been done with like happy thoughts and vibes.
Absolutely. Yep. And as a matter of fact, Janelle's gonna be she's gonna be on the advisory board as to where that her amount of money gets apportioned to. The families that she's going to see benefit from it. So So
awesome. Well, can't wait to see it. 2025.
25.
Just so you know, Laura Leidecker and I are great race course proofers.
Wonderful.
That's our job every year.
That's your job? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what we want to continue to do. And we also clean up the ribbons afterwards.
Nice.
Yeah.
And there again, that granted, it's if the cold doesn't bother you, that is a great race to do to introduce yourself to trail running, because,
Yeah,
the course isn't real wicked, but, you can do as many laps as you want. You can do one lap, or you can do as many as you can in 3 hours. And it's awesome just to talk to different people throughout the 3 hours. And I like it. It's a good one because I'm not a loop kind of guy, but that one is one that I do enjoy.
All right. So. Well, that's plenty. We talked about all the things, John. We're going to have you back on again so we can have more stories.
Yeah, we definitely have stories. We have stories. But thank you so much for having me on. And Eric, go do more long races.
Eric,
so you can keep on inspiring us. We can have guest hosts on.
Yeah. or maybe I need to go do some bigger races.
There you go.
Well, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it, and hope everybody can see us live every Monday at 7:30 p.m. on YouTube's. We're also on all of the streaming things, the Apples and the Spotify's, and we have a Facebook group and all that fun stuff. And so tune in again next week when we talk to more cool people. Thanks much. Bye.
Woo!